this course is it's a, what do we call it, a sequel, right? It's a sequel to Geography or History 3093, but like Star Wars, you don't have to watch the whole thing beginning to end and have fun. This course is basically picks up where Geography History 3093 leaves off right about 1800. And we push it on up as far as we want to go, right? My name is Brad Bays. I'm a geography professor. I'm a historical geographer. I'm not dead yet, but I'm still a historical geographer, so someday I'll be a dead historical geographer. Historical geographer. Anyway, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the format of the course, and then I'm going to actually ask you for some information. You know how that goes, right? You want my email address and the phone number and all that kind of stuff, Major. I'm actually not going to ask you that. I'll ask you that in another way later. But I will want to get to know you. For this course, first thing most people want to know is what's the book look like so I can go buy it. So the only text that you have to purchase in here, and if you've had Geography History 3093, you already have this, so you don't need to purchase anything if you're already paying. But this is a very small little textbook, and this is kind of the blueprint of the course, or at least it serves as kind of an anchor for the course. So we will go through most of this book. The first, the first part of the sequence only takes us up to about chapter 8 or so. But we'll use this for our maps and for understanding locations, kind of a reference book, in addition to some online readings that I'll have for you. And I try to choose readings that are good. Number one, not horrible and long and boring, but they might be long, but they're going to be good. And I try not to swamp you with too much reading. A lot of the material that you'll be assessed on, will be in the readings and the lectures. And I don't want to say that you won't be tested over stuff that's in the readings that I don't necessarily lecture on, but for the most part, I try my best to cover as much stuff that we read as we can. So, one caveat about this course, Tyler knows a little bit about this, is that usually I have a GoPro standing up right here, and I'm trying to video things, okay? Well, we're in this class now, so I don't have to do all that. In fact, right now, this this discussion is being recorded, all right? And not that I'm going to post this, but normally when we would, you'll come in here on Wednesday and I'll provide you syllabus and PowerPoint presentation, all that stuff. It'll be recorded. So why is it being recorded? Well, because I'll post all of this stuff on Canvas. Actually, I'll probably post it to YouTube and just link it from Canvas. So the idea is that everything that we cover here in class will be recorded for posterity so that you can utilize it if you want to before exams, or maybe just catch it after class, or if you miss class, you can watch it online. I don't have an attendance policy. I'm not going to take roll. I encourage you to come to class. I think, you probably have much sense. You realize that coming to class will help rather than just trying to take this as an online class. But it's possible to take it as an online class, okay, for the most part. We can do all of the testing in this course is also done on a computer online, not remotely, but on test days, on Fridays, and you'll have much of the day to decide when you want to take the exam. You don't have to take it at 1:30 to 2:20, and it's not timed, so you can take as much time as you need. We'll take our exams over in the classroom building on the 4th floor. You'll come in, sit down, log in, put in the password for the particular exam, and you'll get started. And the format of the exam is kind of up to you. I'm going to ask you about that. So I'm actually taking information that I'm going to put into the syllabus, all right? Normally, universities, we do things the wrong way. We like that's a surprise, right? We take the information we get from course evaluations and say, oh, well, I guess they didn't like that. Okay, so next time I teach the class, I'll need to remember not to do that. And they did like this, and next time I teach the class, I'll have to remember to do that. And of course, a year passes and everything's forgotten and nothing changes, all right? So here, I'm asking you ahead of time, what is it that you want? What is it that you prefer? I'm not gonna, you're not the one that's necessarily gonna create the class, but you will give me some ideas about your interests, include, what is maybe more interesting, because we can't cover everything. We have to take some emphasis every now and then. All right, so we've got a textbook, you got a professor, you've got Canvas. Everybody loves Canvas, right? And you're going to have a lot of material on Canvas very soon. Don't have anything yet, because mostly we've got kind of a little glitch, because we have two sections. We have a geography section. How many of you are taking this as a geography course? Most of you. How about as a history course? A few of you, okay? So it doesn't matter what you're taking it as, but because they have you in a different class online, we have to merge the populations of those two classes and create a third combined section. So we haven't done that yet. I've requested it, but it just hasn't happened. So we'll have that, and you'll be able to see a Canvas course in a little bit. At this point, I want to talk about this. Okay, so no attendance policy. Taking exams is all paperless, and you won't come to this class, you'll go to another class. The content that we will cover in here will be recorded and hopefully made a little prettier and placed online for you. Don't expect that to happen like within 12 hours. Give me a couple of days. It's what it has to do. It's recorded and sent over to my college, and then my college tech people will cut it and forward it to me. So hopefully we'll get that system, that production line going, so that I can get it posted on YouTube and you can see it. All right. So that is those of you that have classes with me before, the problem with that is, if I say it in class, then it's kind of like game for the exam, right? And so hopefully, I'll try not to go into minutia or anything, but there is a lot of material. You can cover a lot of material in a lecture, okay? But we'll try my best to make sure that is captioned, and you can actually have a script of the whole thing, so you can do searches and that sort of thing. So coverage. This is where I wanted to ask you some questions, and I'm going to, if you have some paper, I've got some paper actually. Let me provide you with a sheet of paper. I'd like for you to go ahead and put your name on this and take roll. No, I don't take roll, but we'd like to know who's here today. What's the weather like outside? Cold? Is it windy? Not windy? Less windy? Yeah. Computers in the classroom, no problem at all. Okay? Telephones in the classroom, no problem at all. All right, so I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like for you to do your best to answer these for me. Be sure to put your name on it. And question number one. Oh, this is not really question number one. There's actually a couple of questions. So I'm just asking you your preference here, A, B, C, or D, on exams, and on research projects, A, B, or C. So if you had your preference, which of these would you prefer? In fact, you might even rank them A, B, C, D, and then put, let's say, I like this one, number 1. That's my top choice. And maybe this one, number 2, and this one, number 3, and this one, number 4. So if you could rank them with the number 1 being your top choice, okay? And so you just need to write exams A, B, C, D, and then you can read through those and rank them 1, 2, 3, or 4, however you want. So option A is exams containing only objective questions, multiple choice or true false, all right? Multiple choice and true false questions, objective. Tyler, can I pick on you a little bit? Do most people kind of think multiple choice and true false is pretty easy?
It kind of just depends, I bet.
Okay, but I have my tests on the computer.
Yeah.
So what dirty trick can I play on you? I don't use a Scantron, which limits your question options to 5, right? 5 bubbles. You can have 15 options on the multiple choice. Remember that? Yeah, okay. Now, the good part of that is we can also put photographs and stuff, and so you can, and maps, and I can give you a lot more of a cool resource exam experience. However, multiple choice, true, false are not necessarily, eliminate the 1 out of a 4 or 5. Right? They can be pretty hairy. All right, so exams containing only objective and objective questions. Exams, if you don't have any preference, if you're just completely neutral, you don't have to, or you can just say, I don't care. Okay, I don't care. That's fine. Exams containing only written questions. So if not necessarily essay questions, but say short answer, fill in the blank, maybe short essay, and maybe a long essay, something like that, with appropriate points associated with the complexity of the answer required. I will tell you that when it comes to subjective questions and open-ended types of questions, I'm one who likes to ask you for lists. So might, for example, ask you what are 4 of the Spanish land tenure systems that were incorporated in the Western United States by Spanish colonists and Mexican colonists later. And you could list some of those, okay? Because we would have talked about several of them. Encomienda, Latifundia, or someone in Texas. Impresario. Okay, good. So that basically, I'm looking for terms. Want you to know terms. It's important to know jargon and terms. Okay, so then we could do an even mix. We could do basically a mix of multiple choice, true, false, and some essay questions, which is probably kind of traditional, Or we could do a whole bunch of different stuff. We can do matching. We could do fill in the blank. We could do list, or make a list, essay question, short answer question, multiple choice, anything. So we could do a great variety. All right, so if you would, give me some feedback on what type of format you prefer, if you even prefer it, on the exams, okay? And this one, on the research projects, if you could write research projects, answer this for me. With regard to research projects, which of the following of these 3 do you prefer? Okay. And if you prefer one over the other strongly, tell me that. Okay. If you're chill, right, and you don't care, that's fine. Right? Is that right? Is that the proper meaning of chill? So like here's three possibilities. One whopper research project to work on all semester, but nobody likes those, right? What this would be, if you had one research project, think of it more as a research portfolio. with a particular emphasis. And you, for some reason, have a great interest in, let's think of something, copper mining, all right? You have a really strong interest in copper mining, and you want to examine copper mining as an activity across the American West, or maybe Midwest and West, over time. Or maybe you're interested in a region. Maybe you're interested in the settlement of Alaska. Okay, maybe you're interested in the settlement of Alaska, or the fur trade, or something like that. Maybe, or whatever it is. Then what we could do is if option A would involve Whopper. I didn't have lunch, but that actually kind of sounds good. A Whopper of a research project in which we would begin as a group having we'd cut it all up into a bunch of different little assignments. Maybe we'd have, maybe there's 8 different assignments that make up this research project. I don't like to call it a paper because most of your learning is not going to be coming through writing a paper, right? Most of the learning is learning how to use search tools, search engines, learning how to identify certain types of sources, developing maybe a timeline, developing your bibliography, maybe even doing a little bit of mapping, all right? Maybe some data collection even. There's a whole lot of different steps. In fact, I have some notes here that I should have used. Some other things that would go into that. Try to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So you would have individual assignments to develop a bibliography, develop a topic. That takes some effort. Presenting results graphically. Anyway, there's a lot of different possibilities. So we would generally have some time every week reserved for working on that project, basically one step at a time, so that everybody's generally kind of doing the same thing, finding a topic, doing some library searching, doing library work, pulling some sources, maybe even collecting some primary level data, and developing that, thinking about stuff, okay, discussing things, doing a draft, getting some feedback on a draft, So those are some possibilities. So that would be A, okay? That would be A. And this also may include a deliverable, something like a video, right? Something like that, but it doesn't, not necessarily. Okay, B, rather than one Whopper research project, we'd have 3 medium-sized assignments. I didn't say project, but assignments. That's where I give you something and then say, go do this, and get it to me at the next exam, okay? So if I gave you something like this, you'd have 3, you can think of them as three papers, 3 shorter papers. For this class, you've got to have 10 pages, double-spaced as the requirement. So if we said, the first assignment would be a 3-page paper based on this, and this, you could expect that, okay? And then maybe one would be a 4 or 5-page papers. So that's your 3 medium-sized assignments. And then C would be a half dozen or more really short assignments where you have a much shorter paper and maybe like a 1-pager, but you'd have to do something first, and it would be usually along the theme probably of a particular area of historical geography that we would cover, like cattle trails or something. Okay, so everybody answer those. So rank A, B, C, and D, if you will, or just give me some feedback. Same thing here, if you'd like. The next part of this is, oh yeah, put your name on there, and also tell me your major if you have a major, or maybe two majors, or a major and a minor, or a major and a minor and a certificate, or something like that. I'd like to know where you're coming from. Also, if you want to, if you know, if you're about to graduate, it's a 4,000 level course, and you know what you're going to be doing, and tell me your interests. Happy to work with you on a project. Next, we'll call this temporal range. Sorry, I should have bolded that. We just put temporal range, and either rank or just select one of these as your top choice. Usually this course begins around 1800, 1790, something like that, and goes as far as we can, okay? Now, it's possible, usually I just go to the 20th century, all right? So 100 years. Now, we can, though, go all the way up to about 1960. I like to talk about 1960 because, that's a little more than 50 years, but 60 years ago now. So about 60 years ago, basically before most of us were around, right? So historical, implying that this is not something that's contemporary. So we can go 1800 to 1960. We can go 1800 to World War II. After catch the Great Depression, and maybe look at what happened during the Great Depression. Or we could limit it to, say, just 1800 up until about World War I, up to about 1920. Okay? And if we did that, then that would largely, we would just be scratching the surface on the impact of the automobile at that point. While here, we would see major developments with the automobile, okay? And certainly here in 1960. Or we could just go 1800 to 1900. And with that, we would just call it the 19th century, right? We could even say it's the long 19th century from, what was the long, anybody know the long 19th century? Any history majors here? So the long 19th century, historians often refer to it as from 1789, maybe 1787, but 1789 to about 1914. You know what 1914 is all about, right? What happened? World War I starts, right? And why 1789?
French Revolution.
French Revolution, exactly, yeah. So we have the French Revolution as a popular revolution, transforming, sort of overthrowing the old guard, what do they call it? Fin de siècle or something like that. Oh gosh, being recorded, I gotta remember to control myself. Cut that out. So the idea is that you'd have sort of major social movements taking place, 1789, and then World War I begins. The modern era really takes off after World War I. So be thinking about that. Of course, we've got about 42 or so meetings. So this means that we have more time to focus on things in the 19th century, if that's all you want to cover. If we want to go all the way to 1960, we'll have to cover things a little more generally, a little faster. Okay? That's all. You may not have any care at all about that. Now, this is one. Sorry, it's so small. The geographical range. Can you all read that even? The geographical range, I'm giving you some ideas here of some possibilities, and these are not hard and fast rules, but so here's one possibility. The entire continent, 1800s, or the entire continent, 1800 to 1960, okay? That's going to give you the thinnest coverage, but the broadest coverage. Or we could just say, more or less, let's just focus on the United States. We'll talk about Canada now and then, but focus on the United States. Or we can say, we're going to focus on the United States, but we're going to have some emphasis on the surrounding region around our area. So that would be, very generally the South, if you want to call Texas the Southwest, South, Midwest, Great Plains region around Oklahoma. So a little bit more emphasis on this common region. And then finally, we could say, we're going to just do the United States, but we're going to take every chance, every opportunity we can to talk a lot about Oklahoma, right here and locally. So if you have a preference there, voice it now. Let me know on your piece of paper. And I will count these up and take a sort of a poll, and I've got enough content to do any of these, right? So, okay, now, this is a little crazy. What do we study in historical geography? Let me do that right. Let's see here. Just a second. All right, well, let's do this. Remember, I'm using PowerPoint. This is not so hard. Now, if you're able to read any of this stuff, I am a Mac user trying to use the PC, and I'm not very good at it. All right, so here we go. I've created a bunch of, I just kind of brainstormed before class and thought of some general kind of topical stuff that I typically will include in a class like this. But what I'd like to do is, since we can't cover everything, I'd like for you to pick 10 or so. It doesn't have to be 10, it could be 6 or 8 or 12, I don't care. Of these that just jump out at you as, wow, that would be really interesting and fun to talk about. So I can maybe tailor the subject matter a little bit closer to your interests. Banking and finance has a geography. Urban landscapes, Central Park, shopping malls. Turnpikes and paths, that is overland roads. Roads moving freight, moving people, like the National Road, maybe Route 66, depends on your period. Canal and riverboat commerce, the thing that, the inland waterways, basically. This is something I usually cover. Canal and riverboats. Folk construction methods, those of you who have had classes with me, we talk about stuff like that sometimes. Forms on the landscape, land survey and disposal processes, cultural exchanges between the various peoples in North America, Europeans, Africans, indigenous peoples, the electoral geography of the United States. That is we could even look at changes over time in political representation, political culture. The focus on port cities and intercontinental trade, or Atlantic trade, basically. Communications technologies like the telegraph, telephones, up to the 1960 if we go there. Pony Express, right? And then here's some more. These are kind of random, like steel production. Okay, there's a very strong geography to steel production. Food processing, marketing, retailing of clothing, railroad construction, goes along with steel production. Here's one that's kind of broad: human-induced environmental degradation, like the Dust Bowl, or loss of soil in the South because of row cropping and failures to conserve soil resources. Natural disasters. What are some natural disasters that go back in the 19th century that you think of? How have those changed? The hurricane that hit Galveston, for example. Or maybe the Johnstown flood. Heard of that? So, dams break and that sort of thing. So that's a possible. Transformations associated with the automobile, with the development of the internal geography of cities. That's something that's very much affected by the increasing speed of automobiles. But also things like the interstate highway system. If we went to 1960, we would probably want to mention the interstate highway system and how it was planned. Before that, the United States, the federal highway system and paying for roads. Let's see. Sports and urban recreation. So things like baseball parks and, the development of things like the major leagues and how people in the cities had disposable income that they began spending once popular culture sort of emerged in the late 19th century. Elite landscapes and neighborhoods. How did those super huge mansions arrive there? Why are they in that location? And likewise, how about urban poverty and ghettos in places where people are often immigrants huddle around and have very distinctive parts of the city. The American fur trade, in whatever form it may be. Maybe it's deerskins, maybe it's in the beaver hide trade, or maybe it's the coastal Pacific sea otter trade. Whatever. Fishing and whaling, mostly we're talking about marine fisheries. Urban vernacular architecture, so things like house styles that you would see in the 20th century, that all of you see in the landscape today. We can delve into that a little bit. And maybe internal migration. Examples like the movement of people from Tennessee and Kentucky and Alabama, North Carolina to Texas during the Texas immigration, of the 1820s, 1830s. Or, before that even, the move from the New England states, particularly Massachusetts, into western New York and northern Ohio and Michigan during the early 19th century. So internal migrations, these are all subjects that I've often covered in classes, just to kind of give you an idea of what to expect, because who knows what to expect with historical geography, right? And finally, this is the last part of that long list, agricultural settlement and regional specialization. In other words, the transformation of agriculture from general agriculture to specialized agriculture. Okay, when the folks came into this part of Oklahoma during the land run, they didn't set out to say, we're going to produce winter wheat. You know, they really didn't arrive and start establishing the production of winter wheat first. They were general farmers. They grew corn, they grew cotton maybe. They had some livestock, maybe some milk cattle. But over time, these general farming areas began to develop specializations because there's some sort of comparative advantage to that particular type of production. Right? So how does that work? That's one of those questions that we'll ask in here. And likewise, manufacturing specialization, very similar to agricultural specialization. Where are some manufacturing where are some regional specialized where are some places in the United States that specialize in the production, or at least historically specialize in the production of some type of specific product?
Western Pennsylvania steel.
Okay, good, yeah. Pittsburgh and Cleveland and why did the steel industry develop in Pittsburgh and in eastern Ohio? Why is that? It's the convergence of the three primary resources that are needed to produce steel. So you have to have iron ore. Where does the iron ore come from? Great Lakes. You can get it if you have access to the Great Lakes. What else do you have to have? You have to have limestone, which you can get in the Appalachians pretty much anywhere. But limestone actually is a lot more accessible in the plateau area of Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania. So you don't want to move the limestone because it's the heaviest and cheapest. And then, of course, you got to have coal, right? So coal comes in from the railroads from mostly West Virginia or eastern Pennsylvania. So that confluence allows those products to be brought in. Of course, you need labor, so you need people like immigrants, okay? Lots of Eastern Europeans were coming in to Western Pennsylvania. And so they produce steel, and then how do they market steel? How do you market steel once you got it produced? Steel's real heavy, bulky, and
Gotta transport it.
so you got to transport. That was the best way to transport it in like 1800s. Water. So you ship it down the river. So Pittsburgh is at the confluence of the head of the Ohio, Monongahela, and what? Allegheny, Monongahela. Okay, so that's that's just one example. How about another regional specialty, another manufacturing specialty, maybe from the 20th century?
Automobiles in Detroit.
Yeah, there you go. Automobiles in Detroit. Great. How about, well, let's see, what else can we say? There's another name. How about boots, cowboy boots? Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe. Hey, Levi's. Where did Levi's get started? Anybody know? That used to be a brand of jeans that we wore back in the 80s. When we were born.
California.
Yeah, San Francisco. You know what the relation is there? Levi Strauss, okay, German immigrant, went to the Goldfields, San Francisco, made a fortune selling denim jeans to the people coming in, going into the Goldfields. Of course, more money was made selling stuff to the would-be gold rush millionaires than was ever made from the gold itself, right? So commerce was just attracted to that place. So I have gold rushes. Those are always fun. Mining regions, energy resources, long-distance transportation systems. What do we mean by that? What's a long-distance transportation system? How about the railroad system or the interstate highway system, or just highway systems? Forest and timber production. Rural ethnic settlement patterns, urban ethnic settlement patterns, patterns of religious affiliation, Okay? So we're in the Bible Belt now, right? What are some eastern states of the Bible Belt today?
Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia.
Okay. Mississippi?
Yeah.
Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Virginia? West Virginia? Okay. So the question is, South Carolina, North Carolina? Billy Graham was from North Carolina, right? Okay. Was that the Bible Belt in 1820? It wasn't. So what happened? What happened? In fact, South Carolinians weren't that religious at all back in the 18th century. We know that. But other things. So religious patterns are one thing we could delve into. One of my very favorite topics, just for some strange reason lately, are utopian settlements, right? What's an example of that? Utopian settlement. Or experimental living. These are often the predecessors of actual religions. They wind up being successful. The Latter-day Saints started out as a sort of a new religion, a new way of seeing things, and they have a geography. They have very much a geography of their events in the United States, often very tragic. But there are other examples of utopian settlements where and you know what a utopia is, right? So the utopia is this big scheme or it's an idea that you're going to create something that's better, maybe even perfect, for the future. Just kind of set the standard. And so a lot of utopian settlements got started in the eastern United States. You've probably visited some of them, perhaps. They're often affiliated with certain religious sects, like the Amana colony. Been there up in Iowa? So that's a good example. What's another one?
The Amish.
The Amish. Okay, so Amish, yeah, kind of a migration into that area, but yeah, and they have rules that they want to confine their ways. But there are other really freaky ones that took place in the 1800s, in the 1900s, okay? And today we would probably, call them cults. But there are really some fantastic examples. Maybe we can cover that. And then I was thinking, okay, well, what else is related to that? Things like penal colonies, okay? Historical geography of that. Urban transport, urban form. So give me your list of things that really look fun. And then if there's something that I didn't cover, if there's something that was not on that list anything not included in that you would like to see in the course, and I'll see what I can do. And with that, any questions? We got to remember we're on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, so don't let me go over. All right. I think there's another class coming in here right after us. But if you would, just make sure your name's on that so I know you were here today. Even though we don't have an attendance policy, you pay for the course. I'm not going to penalize you for not being here. And you're all the more welcome to access the lecture online when it gets online. We have a lecture. Right? I need to get a syllabus to you, and I will do that. I have by the end of the week to get to that, but I'll try to get it to you by Wednesday. Once I can get a little feedback on the preferences here, I'll be able to get some. Eric, did you get my email?
Yes.
Grade never changed the,
Well, yeah, it won't yet,
it won't.
but I did find it, so I wanted to let you know that.
Yeah,
And I felt terrible because I didn't realize that you had uploaded it. And-
well, I spent like 20 minutes trying to get that thing to go through, and then I finally just sent it to you through, and you can see
Oh.
all the different ways I tried to get it to
Okay.
you. Like
Well,
I sent you an email.
Well, I found it on Google Drive.
It went on Google Drive?
Yeah, it was on the Google Drive.
That's.
And I ran across it. I wasn't even looking for it.
Okay.
I was actually looking for deer photos.
Yeah.
And I ran across that and I thought, oh man, I missed this. So,
Yeah,
My mistake.
I was like, man, but, yeah, I was glad you found it.
okay, well, we'll get that taken
Because
care
I
of.
was highly concerned about that one.
Yeah, I can tell.
I emailed you like 5 times, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I know, it's okay. I've seen students panic on email before. It's not a big deal.
That was me on panic typing mode right there.
That's cool.
I'll see you Wednesday.
All right.
Real quick, I didn't do the 1400. That's not required, is it?
No, I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Not required at all.
Okay, I figured it's probably just like something, like just a different part of the course.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
I took, when I was here at OSU, I was a geography history double major. I didn't finish my major for history. There's like one class I lacked, so it was a minor. It was a real fat minor. But the point of that is I took history of modern Latin America, and then I took history of colonial Latin America.
Okay.
That's no big
So it
deal.
doesn't really matter. What
Yeah.
you do. Okay.
Yeah. As long as, it'll fit together maybe, hopefully.
Okay.
But I think this particular focus, I mean, in the other class, we cover, before 1492 to 1800. And there's a lot of stuff. And it's very meticulous. Here, we've got a lot less time to cover, but
You got more time to actually cover.
lots of space to cover.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah.